So we've got all the panelists, and right away I'm going to start the panel discussion. And I'm going to start, Gert, from you. I know you're a little bit short of the time, and we're a little bit behind the schedule. So right away, I'm jumping into the topic. We've heard what Simon has introduced at the fire start, and what I'm hearing, food processing is not that bad. And you have very interesting research done on that. And you're talking a lot about overall that the food processing is achieving sustainable development goals. Could you maybe start elaborating on how the industry can balance those trade-offs between enhancing food safety and nutrition while minimizing environmental impacts?
That's not so easy. It's a big challenge, right? As Simon already said, food processing is incredibly important. We typically start with raw agricultural materials. And if we wouldn't process those, food would not be safe, shelf life would be short. We could not add any, let's say, improvement from a nutrition point of view, for example, by adding vitamins and minerals. So, you know, the end would be tremendous food waste if we wouldn't process. So processing is important. However, at the moment, we do not process food in a way that is really sustainable. And that has nothing to do with all the things we hear about ultra-processed food, but we still don't know what they mean with that. There's no definition of what ultra-processed food is. It's more about looking at how we process food, the materials that we use. So it's also about the interaction with the agricultural sector to see how we can reduce the energy that we are using to process food. Can we do more with less material? For example, can we use side streams or by streams of production? Can we do less with labor, for example, by digitalization? Can we reduce transportation by processing food closer to where it's grown? And then also, the further distribution. So there's plenty of areas where we can look at reducing energy intake, reducing water use, to make processing more sustainable. Because we have to look at that as well, right? The processing is not just adding benefits, it's also putting pressure on the food system and on systems around the food system. And we need to look at what we can do better to make the actions that we take within the food system more sustainable. So we need a transition in the food system to make the food system more sustainable. And what we are about to do, 10th of December, with the European Technology Platform for the food sector, the largest sector, as Simon said, is we will introduce our revised strategic research and innovation agenda, which is completely revised, taking this system thinking into account, while focusing on making the food system more resilient and sustainable. So I know I said a lot, but it's about improving processing to make sure that the system in which the processing takes place gets more sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And I would like just to add one more question to that, what we've been saying about the energy overall, how we're producing the food. And you have mentioned very interesting point at your paper. Upcycling food waste is presented as a promising solution. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Right now, food waste is large, right? Usually we talk about, the food waste and food loss. So food waste would be the focusing on consumers, so helping consumers to understand what they can do with food. Also dealing with regulators about shelf life indications on pack, because a lot of people look at the date printed on pack and think the moment that date is the same as the date on the calendar, they have to throw away the food because it's not good anymore. And that's not true, not necessarily true. There's other ways to establish whether food, even beyond its shelf life on pack, can still be consumed safely. So it's focusing on the consumer. It's also focusing on what we are doing in our factories with the raw materials. So let's say materials that were that were usually discarded or given, even if it was used as feed, can we still use those materials to produce other ingredients that can be used for food? So both are important. So looking at, let's say, the waste streams in the food processing and how we can valorize that, so can use them for other applications, ideally in food. But also then in our strategy, we also focus on the behavior of consumers with food once they buy it, because in our economy, it's mainly the food wasted by consumers that contributes to the total of food loss and waste. So it's very important to focus on that as well.
Thank you so much. And I'm turning right away to Aiste. We're talking about the new technologies, new ways of producing food, about the food waste. But tell us a little bit about your business, what you do, because you actually work with the product that probably has no food waste. Please.
Yeah, it looks like that, to fill the water, because our company owns Aquila, Vytautas, and Birute brands. And this is very unique because natural mineral water can be transported just in the bottles. You can't do anything else, And I know that Nestle as well is working with the water, so you know a lot about it as well. And it's so complicated. You can't pasteurize it. You can't do anything for the water. So you need to keep it as it is in the earth. And this is I think this is like a treasure of Lithuania, what we have here under the earth. And this is what we do. We introduce new technologies that we can produce it as much as possible per hour, as more effective as possible in very clean environment. So all the time the production is like in the incubator. So all the mineral water which is filled is very safe, and each of the bottle is take care about all the microplastics, everything which we are talking now. Just the technologies can help to avoid it. So to see if there is no dust, nothing, no microplastics in the air, because this is what the people mostly ask about me. Is it the plastic safe? Is the product safe? Of course, just the new technologies can help us to do it. And we introduced a lot of IT systems which can help us to control the quality of the products, because it's not enough to check the quality of the products once a day. You need to check it, every minute, every hour, to see if nothing changes, because we don't use any processing on the water. This is a quite different thing. So that's why we need to ensure a very, very clean environment. And our business is about taking the most treasure what we have to the people. So Aquila is like from babies to kids to to older people, which is sensitive to water and so on. Birute is very good for your mineral, so you don't need to take your supplements. You can just drink Birute and Vytautas. So this is what we have, and this is how we ensure that these products will reach our customers.
Right away, I have a question, Aiste. I know Vytautas, one of your waters, already is 100 years old. So 100 years old,
yeah,
so that means amazing. There was no technology, nothing. So how, please try to explain a little bit to us, how then it was healthy and now we need technology.
Yeah, this is very good questions. It's actually why we know that it's 100 years. Because we found in a newspaper, in the old newspaper, is written that you can come to Kaunas, to Hotel Lietuva, Lithuania, to buy Vytautas. So they will transport this product from Birštonas to Kaunas. They will fill with the hands, glass bottles, and they will sell it in Hotel Lietuva. In Kaunas. That's why we are celebrating this 100 year, because we found it, it was in 1924. And since then, the first line was basically the woman's with the dress and filling the bottles. So it took a lot of times. It was not very hygienic. So just carbonated water was available, because carbonation kills some bacteria. So it's some kind of preservative. Carbonation. It's the best preservative in the market for drinks, actually, the carbonation. And the still product came, I think it was the French which introduced the best technologies for still product was the France. And for the carbonated product, for carbonated mineral water, Germans was the first. So, and now you can see even in the market in Germany, sparkling water is very popular. In France still, and it depends on technology they used and they discovered for filling the water.
So in your case right now, what is the most technology you are using? Is it for the preserving the water overall, or is it for the production process?
This is for filling process, because filling process is very sensitive. The water comes directly to the bottle, but still during the filling is a small air. So if you don't take care about this air, then everything can happen there. So it's like incubator, as I said, the filling process, and each of the material which comes to the filling area, it's cleaned without any particles, with anything. It goes to this clean area. So that's why it should be very, very clean process.
So as I understand, the digitalization, deep tech, artificial intelligence, those are crucial technologies that you're going to be using for that.
It is crucial for our process, because we don't want any human errors. And this is something which is very, very important. And even in some rooms, the people, they can't even enter, because you need to keep it.
Only robots are working.
No, it's a IT system. They can pump, they can, everything, everything is automatic. So they don't even need to come there.
Oh, okay, fantastic. And I'm jumping right away, Gert, to you. Aiste has mentioned that Nestle also works with the water. Can you elaborate a little bit on what Aiste said, and what's the difference between the water and food processing? Can we compare those processes?
I mean, Aista has said everything absolutely correctly. The regulations for natural mineral water are very simple and very strict. It's basically, you need a source, you need to stick in a pipe, and at the other end of the pipe, you fill the bottle. You cannot do anything else. You cannot even put it in a tanker truck, and you cannot clean it. And that's a challenge, because one of the reasons why we have to make the food system more sustainable is because our planet is not so clean anymore. So we've seen in some of the sources that we are using that the natural mineral water is, if you like, naturally polluted with microplastic and even bacteria that you really don't want in water. But in a way, you can't take it out. If you take it out, the water is no longer natural mineral water. So I think that's one of the other things we need to work for, Aiste, is changes in the regulations. Of course, the regulations were designed to make sure that people would really use water from a source and not tap water and sell it as natural mineral water. But now that our planet is so much polluted, not all sources are clean. I hope yours is. Are dirty. I hope your source is clean. But we have some sources that are not. And we have to clean the water, because otherwise the drinking water, the water in the bottles is not safe anymore. So we need to change the regulations to make sure that we can still enjoy natural mineral water that has just been cleaned to remove ingredients like bacteria and microplastic that we really don't need at all. So I think that's a big challenge. And indeed, the processing will always be very, very limited. But we have to make sure that the water is safe.
Thank you so much, Gert. And I'll come back to the policy regulations to you. But now I would like to turn to Mindaugas. And we've started to talk about the bacteria that we need to process, but is it really processed food? Because usually we hear that processed food doesn't contain that much minerals, that much of the vitamins. can really processed food compare to the raw food?
I would step back and add some comments on Aiste's speech, talking about water, which you just fill in. So you need to keep it as clean as good as it is, without spoiling it.
Yeah.
And in terms of food processing, I can go, quite long story here or short story, but generally, first we need to understand that we are 8 billion people in the world. And nowadays, when we speak about industry as such as a bad guy, quite oftenly, who is, polluting, doing all the bad stuff, and, highly processed foods, etc., 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 and is devil, then, I would say that if everybody of us, all 8 billion, would start to produce food by ourselves, pollution would skyrocket even more. Then currently in the world we do have areas where we have food waste, we have overuse, etc., obesity whatsoever, but then we have developing countries where it's a lack of food and people are starving. Therefore, first, industry is needed to feed people. Another story is that, again, I am not trying to, to make a fight between small and big, but I know how many regulations and the requirements we need to match as an industry to make food first safe, which is the crucial step, and then, toward healthy diet, etc., but safety first in this matter. And then big companies, they are really controlling the processes. They really need to follow the path. And quite oftenly, I'm not saying that it's 100% true or not. Those small ones, they are not at all controlled. They are not at all regulated. And you okay, just examples of the street food in some third countries where you can have stomach problems, etc. So within the industry, if somebody has a bad stomach, next day we called from our customers, etc. What's happening? Do you follow the regulations? That's one. Another story is by processing food, water, you don't spoil it. Food, you process, but then you can add ingredients which can be healthier, which can support your healthy style of living, which can, functional food is hot topic nowadays, which could help you to minimize some risks within your diet, allergies whatsoever, or it can improve your conditions, etc. So food industry, in my understanding, has even in the future to come, shorter than longer future, has a big kind of mission to help us to live longer, live healthier. Therefore, there are, of course, things to do, and we are not saints. We do good and bad, etc. But generally, I believe that food industry is and will have even bigger roles for the society in the future.
When you said about the burden of the regulations, does it mean, Mindaugas, that the industry needs to over-process the food when there is no necessity for that?
Look, if you have, I am against doing nothing. If we take black and white, and I very much like Gediminas story, but he was putting everything, black. And then if I took, only white and fluffy puffy side, then it's another story. But the truth is in between. If industry And the players there who has kids and want them to grow old healthy has a mission to provide good quality healthy food, then you don't need. You can, and you, for example, I mean, focus is the right thing to do. In our case, our group, we have in our food companies, we have quite clear 4 directions in terms of food where we do the right things. And this is natural ingredients, this is superfood ingredients to be used to make it healthier, etc., etc., shortening supply chain, CO2 reduction, etc., etc., etc. And then less is more. Reduction of sugar, reduction of salt, refuse at all palm oil, etc., etc., etc. Therefore, it's something what we can do even better. So, answering your question, we don't need to overdo. We do as much as it's needed to make it safe, and then as much as we can to make it more healthy.
Oh, thank you, Mindaugas. I would like to turn to Simon now, just a little bit to go further into the discussion. We're hearing, okay, we heard from Aiste, we heard from Gert, how technologies are important. We heard from you, digitalization, automatization, robotics, artificial intelligence, right? All that is very pricey. What do we do with SMEs? Who carries flag for that?
Yeah, that's a nice question. I think Aiste gave the answer herself already, actually, because she said, well, 100 years ago, we had women standing there filling it with hands, and it wasn't very economical, and it wasn't very hygienic, so maybe not so hygienic. So we need to use these technologies to make products that are safe, as just said, has been said, and in a way that it makes sense for a company to produce it as well. Adding extra steps just as extra steps is just extra cost, and it won't work. So what we try to do with the SS4AF partnership is try to support mainly SMEs in making this transition possible, in setting up relatively small-scale projects to test and validate solutions. Usually we try to get some grants in there as well to reduce the costs even more, to see that there is actually a business case there. Mm-hmm. And then I can speak only for most of Europe, and I know at least in the Netherlands, a lot of food companies, food processing companies are family owned. Okay. And in family owned companies, families take pride in their products, and if they know that they can provide for a longer future for their kids and their grandkids, they are willing to invest, and they are willing to seek money, often within the family, not even going to banks, to say, okay, but first they need to know that there is a real business case.
Exactly.
And for showing that, you have to try, you have to invest. We're doing a project with Aiste on some extra measurements, on making sure that they have less waste, which is promising, which is working, and next steps will be taken, and hopefully they will find money at a bank or elsewhere to make it happen. So yeah, it's a game of creating a playing field where people can test, in my opinion.
Yeah. So as I understand, your organization works as a cluster, and when you give us support for the SMEs to pilot the different types of technology implementation, can you give us some examples? For example, like a success stories.
Well, there was a nice example of a biscuit bakery in Belgium. They make very nice biscuits, and they have a very common conveyor belt oven, 9 meters long, with 9 burners on every meter. And there was this guy who was getting of age, and he used to walk around this oven all day long, turning the burners to make sure that the biscuits at the end of the line were perfect color. Okay. What we did in this project is brought in a tech company with some vision material and some algorithms, and they started to program real-time the burners in the oven, so that the guy didn't have to walk up and down and had to look, and even if he was sick, it would still work. And in the end of the project, the disregarded biscuits went down with 10%. So there was much less food waste because AI and vision did a better job than the old guy that was doing it for 30 years. And energy consumption dropped with 15% as well.
Wow.
So for the business owner, this was a very good business case because he immediately saw, okay, it really pays off to do this because with energy prices, especially over the last years, cutting 15% in your energy cost, it's a lot. Yeah. So this is a very small example, I think, but it's a really nice example. And I'm talking to Gert because Nestlé obviously has its own research development and they invest a lot. And I'm talking to Gert and I'm saying, okay, how can we transfer all the knowledge from large companies and make it available, these kind of technologies, to SMEs as well? Because we need to find these bridges because in the end, as a whole, we need to improve. So it's not enough if just Nestlé gets it done right, because as you've seen in the slides as well, most of the food processing companies are SMEs. We only have a few large ones.
Okay, thank you. Right away, Gert, I'm jumping to you. That was a very good question. Is it possible on the economical scale to transfer big, large companies' technology for the SMEs, production and processes? For example, Nestle probably were one of the best first companies overall in the world started to work with the sustainable cacao, but is it affordable for the small ones?
That's a very good question and with many layers in it. Because you just started to talk about agricultural materials as well, of course. Let me start by saying, and I'm going more to my role in the European Technology Platform, there's a couple of areas where we should not compete within the food sector. One is food safety, and the other one is sustainability. That's not a competitive advantage, it's a need for the whole sector. And we all know, and I think Mindaugas mentioned the example of street food. If I go to a country where I know street food is not safe, in some of the carts where they sell it, I will not eat any street food at all. That's not fair to those who are have their food safety in order, but I don't want to take the risk. I don't want to be sick because of something that I ate and wasn't clean. So food safety and sustainability. And what we believe as the European Technology Platform is that we need public-private partnerships, many of them, not just one in Brussels, but across Europe, to enable indeed the smaller and medium-sized enterprises to have access to that knowledge. And I totally agree that big ones, like the company that is paying my salary, should be, and we are, willing to share the information that we have on how to make processing more safe and also more sustainable. And we can do that also with the help, because it's an investment. Nestlé is not a bank. We cannot invest in those small and medium-sized enterprises to make their processing more safe. But that's something that is also important for public health. So the public sector should also be interested in that. So that will be the platform. So there's public-private partnerships where knowledge transfer can take place to help also the small and medium-sized enterprises make sure that what they produce is safe and can be done more sustainable. And that's a benefit for the whole sector, the food sector, but also for the whole food system, all the actors, including consumers.
Okay, and I would like to add one more question to you as the chairman of the European Technology Platform Food for Life, and you mentioned a little bit already about the policy frameworks. What do you see as the key policy interventions that need to be done in order to make the process overall easier? I would say easier, maybe trying to use the word.
I think we do a continuous, that's about doing continuous review on the regulations. I think the most restrictive regulations in Europe are for real innovation, let's say beyond improving food safety and sustainability. There was mentioning of health claims, or at least, talking about the health benefit. That's always in the form of a health claim. Well, getting a health claim approved in Europe is a nightmare. Novel food process, very lengthy, very expensive. So you see lots of companies shying away from using novel ingredients and also from making health claims because the investment is so high. Even for big ones like Nestle, it's a very, very deep investment. And the question is whether you're ever going to get a return on that investment. In general, we have to keep an eye on regulations and make sure that the transitions that we need to get to a more sustainable food system are not blocked by regulations. We didn't make a list yet of all the regulations that need to change. We know that the European Commission is very interested to know where regulations are blocking innovation or transitions to a more sustainable food system. So it's a matter of jointly keeping an eye on that. And if we see a need to adjust regulations, to do that large scale, not individual companies going to Brussels, but at large scale and make a plea for that. There are initiatives in the European Commission looking at where regulations get in the way of innovation. And I think that's the area that we should use to address those concerns.
Thank you so much, Gert. I'm going to turn to other panelists. If you see that you need to leave, then, well, yeah. I'll try to come back one more time to you. Mindaugas, I'm turning to you. As a large-scale food producer, is, by the end of the day, healthy food and profitability coming together?
Should. You know, we can talk a lot about social responsibility, but generally business was started to make money. And then somehow somebody decided to make money here or there. Somebody is good in making shoes, somebody is good in making food. Yes, it should, and it is. I mean, that's very, very short answer.
Do you see, maybe we've talked that healthy food overall contains less salt, less sugar, less everything, so taste...
Or more everything, it depends, I mean.
More everything.
Yeah, more everything. If you talk about superfoods or about the, you know, ingredients which could improve your healthy status, etc., you know, protein levels, or you
but
can...
what about consumers? Do they dictate you, actually, healthy or not healthy products?
Partly. I would say that nowadays, where there is a bunch of you know fake news on the market, and we can take, for example, those you know almond milk versus natural milk examples, or you know, the trend of highly processed vegan meat, which is in the end of the day, you know, 9 to 15 e-letters inside, and then you could, you know, you could be asking for specifically it, without understanding of final impacts to your health and impacts to the supply chain to produce the product. Therefore, if you ask myself, natural ingredients, superfood ingredients, less is more. That's my answer. But you know, industry as such has a mission not just to provide what's needed, but to educate society.
Okay.
What is actually needed. Therefore, it's an interaction between consumer who wants this or that, so he or she is aware what his or her asking costs to planet or himself on the end of the day. That's my story. So yes, we try to hear our consumers. On the other hand, it's, you know, you can see it as a joke, but it's partly very much true. You know, when you compare answers and actual bills, so every consumer says that he or she is, you know, eating healthy, not no alcohol, etc. And then when you check, you know, actual bill, what he or she is buying, it's a little bit different story. So that's the truth. Should and is somewhere between. So we follow the trends, we ask our consumers, and at the same time, as a responsible producer, we need to educate them so they know what is actual health, healthy eating, a healthy diet, etc.
That is very good to hear. And we have a question from the audience, and it goes for now to you, Aister. Is there a nature-based solution for purifying water before filling it into the bottles, which could be implemented without changing any regulations?
So you can fill the water and process it, but it's not natural mineral water anymore. It's a table water. So all the table water is processed water, which usually using the technologies to take out the contamination and other things which is not good for your health. But natural mineral water should be as it is in the bottle. So as I always tell for everyone, we are very, very happy to have this water uncontaminated, because as our colleague said from Nestle, is, you know, to clean the water is very, very difficult, and especially natural mineral water is not allowed. So we need to keep our I don't know, the nature clean, because then this is like, I don't know if it's possible when there's so much people in Paris, for example, you know, to source the water there, it would be maybe impossible, because when it's so many people, you can't control them, you know, they are throwing everything what you throw, what you flush, everything goes in underground waters. So we are quite happy here that we have such a good water which is uncontaminated.
I'm going to take a chance, very quick chance to ask this controversial question, because I travel also a lot, and I get this, you know, introduction with tap water. Let's drink tap water. So you are representing mineral water industry. So what's the catch? I heard that why we're producing mineral water, so it's not sustainable, then you need to do the production, and here we have tap water.
Yeah, it's a totally different category of water where you clean not just the contamination, but usually it cleans all the minerals and everything. So it's a very low mineralized water. So if you need minerals, and if you need like something more than just H2O, natural mineral water is only one choice actually. And it's no other way how we can transport the mineral water just in the bottles, PET or glass. And glass bottle is even more heavy to transport it. So, you know, it's always a choice. And PET in Europe, I would say it's very safe. So we shouldn't be afraid of plastics and microplastics, because in some countries, maybe the sourcing is not so qualitative check and so on. So it could be some problems, but in Europe, we are quite safe at this point.
Thank you, Esther, so much. And I'm turning to Simon to ask, so from what I'm hearing, technologies may even enhance the nutritional value of the wild food processing, right? Mm-hmm. Are those really technologies not that expensive for the implementation? Where is the business model then?
You should ask the business people, actually, because I'm not.
You're doing pilots?
I think that the business case has to be found in every specific case again, because sometimes for a low-value product, probably it doesn't make sense to add a lot of technology, at least when you're not able to do it in bulk. But there are some high-value products, and especially the protein-enriched products, etc. Consumers are willing to pay there. So usually it's more easy in those processes to start by applying new technologies, and if it gets more common, if we gain more experience with it, we can also try to start using it for other product types. We see a crossover even with medicine in food processing. We use quite some techniques in food processing that are used in pharmacy as well. And in pharmacy, obviously, most people know a lot of money can be made. If you make the right product and the one that hits the market first, you can make a lot of money. So there's a lot of research invested in technologies there that I think that we can use more and more in food production as well. In the Netherlands, the military contracting business is growing very rapidly at the moment. Again, we all imagine why, I think, but I think we all know. But we are really looking from our perspective, where can we go with dual use applications there? So if you go with a regiment to somewhere where you don't know you have safe water, you want to develop clean processes, etc., also to make clean water, but also to provide with your food. How can we use those new technologies as well in regular food processing? And how can we create those crossovers?
One more question to you, Simon. So what are the steps, or maybe what are the challenges and how to solve them to get more of the implementation, those technologies all over? Do we need to bridge maybe different ecosystems or different players or different stakeholders? What's the case?
I think that clusters and ecosystems play a crucial role here in trying to attract the attention of SMEs that are facing challenges and saying, okay, I have this challenge, I want to solve food safety, I want to solve how can I enrich my product with something. And I think most European countries now have clusters that can help find good partners to test and validate. And I really think what we need is more courage to just try. And the nice thing about trying is either you succeed, yes, or you fail. And in Europe, especially in the Netherlands, there is this culture of being afraid of failing, and it's a bad thing if you fail. I think it's a bad thing if we do experiments, we fail and we don't talk about it, because then other ones will make the same mistakes. So we really have to create this open arena, and I think that's what Gert was mentioning as well. On some of the topics, there's no competitive advantage. We just have to make step forwards, all of us. So we have to share what works, but we also have to share what doesn't work and why it doesn't work.
Thank you so much, Simon. So you started the ending session, and very good words and very good sentences on what we need to do, the steps, action steps. And Gert, I'm turning to you for the last question then. So what are those steps? What do we need to do in order to have healthy food, but also processed food, implement the highest technologies? What are the challenges and how to solve them?
Well, that's a very long list. I would say read the strategy that we are about strategic innovation agenda that we are about to release on the 10th of December. It will be available on the website of the European Technology Platform, because this is a very, very long list, because we've looked at the drivers of the food system and the outcomes. So there's many actions needed with an impact on social aspects, on environmental aspects, social aspects, including health and safety, and economic aspect. But I think, again, it's important to realize that food safety is absolutely paramount. That's the main reason why we process food. It's also not an area where we want to compete. So it's important that we try to keep the whole food sector safe. That is not only to work in, but also the production by the sector has to be safe foods. So it's indeed a collaboration, and yeah, but many steps are needed. I mean, if we continue as we do right now, this food system is not sustainable and not resilient enough. But I can't even list it in 10 minutes of everything that we are proposing as transformations, action that we need to get at transformations to get to a more sustainable and resilient food system.
Thank you so much, Gert, for joining us today. And Mindaugas, so healthy, large-scale food. What do we do? Process. Healthy, processed, large-scale food. So what are the challenges? What are the solutions?
Go, I'm very sorry. I need to leave.
Yeah, thank you, Gert, for joining us.
Okay,
thank
welcome.
you, bye-bye.
Enjoy the rest, thank you.
Challenges are, I think it's the cost. Actually, that's the challenge. And when we speak and think bigger scale than just our, yard, to be competitive on the world level. So challenge is the cost, mainly, and then of course the payback of the automation, robotization, etc., investments, which one way or another are crucial in order to cope with labor shortage, etc. And then on the other hand, the possibility is when I see our region, specifically country, we do have many of smart, educated people, and we are doing exports, and we will do even more. Therefore, I believe that food industry generally, talking not just Lithuania, global scale, we are the ones who will be even more important. We can partly, I say partly, replace even, pharmacy. Because if you don't eat healthy, then you take, drugs and then you run. But then if you follow a healthy path, physical activity and good food, then longevity, etc. Therefore, I believe food industry is and should be even more important player on the society in the future. And then, of course, as I said, cost level, good processes in places. Here in Lithuania, specifically, of course, we need in order to be competitive on the global scale, because what is big in Lithuania, it's really small on the global scale. Therefore, we need to be able to talk, to discuss, to make clusters, to find out what could be, joint benefits of water producer and the food producer. How can we do the things together, etc., in order to make it in a competitive way and grow our businesses further?
Thank you so much, Mindaugas. And Aiste, so the same question to you.
I will be very short because you said everything. So to invest in technologies which makes healthy products, which makes us live longer and more healthy. So this is the technologies which has the value for humans.
Thank you so much. Let's give a big hand of applause to the panelists. And thank you.